All right, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Thursday, August 24th, 2023. It is about 10:53 a.m. California time here. Live stream is back up and running. Looks like it went down overnight. Computer did a automatic reset just, well, because that's what computers do when they're trying to update. So the stream went down after being up for quite a while. So hopefully we'll keep this stream up and running, just push off the updates here for a little bit as far as the computer updates go. All right, so what do we got going on here across the globe? Look at the western state, or the western Pacific plate here. Goodness, that is awfully quiet. Going to start over here along the west coast first. Got some activity over here outside of Willows. Now this area right here, you can kind of see the fault system. There's some folds out here against the valley, the west side of the valley, which is actually a thrust fault, the Great Valley Thrust Fault out here. Showing a little bit of movement down there into the deeper levels below the surface, 3.0 and a 2.0, literally within minutes of each other. So things showing a little bit of elevated activity here in Northern California. Again, this is the Great Valley Thrust Fault. It's got a slow accumulated slip rate, but not for sure when the last time we've seen a big earthquake out here against the valley. It's been a little while. All right. A little bit of movement here in the northern or southern edge of the Cascadia subduction zone from yesterday and today. A couple smaller quakes there outside of Eureka. As far as the Bay Area of California goes, a handful of smaller quakes here, and of course the Clear Lake volcanic field. This is the Calpine hydrothermal operations, which I don't mention every update because it gets a little on the tiring side mentioning every single event that happens here. This is just an earthquake area. A whole process involved in creating energy from the Calpine Energy Solutions there. They inject raw sewage below the heated areas below the surface here to create some type of dry steam that in return powers some homes out there, creates some energy, and it powers some homes out around the Bay Area. So that earthquake activity you're seeing up here on the map, very close, literally within walking distance of one of the facilities down there. Yeah, so that is the earthquake activity down there. As far as the rest of California goes, a little bit of movement outside of Ridgecrest today, and the swarming area down here outside of Ventura. Looks like we've seen a couple smaller earthquakes after midnight, including a 3.3 earthquake. So things have not completely died off there yet, but slowing down slightly, I would say. But still keep an eye out there in the Southern California region. A little bit of movement along the San Jacinto fault zone, and there's the activity again kicking up on the Pacific, or the North American side of the plate boundary here. This is the San Andreas fault, the southern segment, showing some movement just on the eastern side of it. Now, when I see this, it makes me think that there's definitely some strain building up here against the plate boundary. Well, it has been building strain, right? Over 300 years of strain has been built up out here across the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And of course, this is the area that's going to be producing an 8.1 sometime in the future, according to the professional folks. By the way, I'm drinking this coffee here Miss Mimi's got me. It's actually a Frappuccino. Pumpkin spice is out. Goodness. It seems like it keeps getting earlier and earlier each year. I like it. I get burned out on it pretty quick, though, but this is the first one of the year for me. I love pumpkin spice. All right, so yeah, a little bit of activity here across the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. Also down here on the Salton Sea area. This is the extensional fault system here. The Brawley seismic zone, showing some activity last night. So continue to watch Southern California here for some movement. Into the Pacific Northwest, not a whole lot. Yellowstone area, northwestern Wyoming, a 1.5 earlier this morning, but let's just double check. I always like to verify, right? Let's see here. I wonder if this is going to be that. This is a few hours ago here. I don't know if that's going to be that earthquake. Yeah, it kind of looks like it, a 1.5. So, yeah, that's going to be the 1.5 right here. Some other earthquake activity, but that kind of looks like it's away from the region. Or maybe it could be picking up some geyser activity. Almost looks like geysers. But aside from that, very minimal earthquake movement there at Yellowstone for now. Texas, Oklahoma, and the broader region out here across the eastern portion of the states. Same movement from yesterday out there. We do have some newer movement overnight near the Lake Erie area. 2.3, northern Ohio. Outside of Cleveland, 7 kilometers deep. Don't see too much activity out there, but they do sit somewhat in a hazard zone. There's a couple different fault systems that run through here. Of course, the New Madrid seismic zone, the biggest one out here, capable of producing some large damaging earthquakes. But occasionally Ohio does see some earthquakes. All right, the big island of Hawaii, the other hotspot area, so to speak, in terms of volcanic movement. Getting some activity here off the hill in a slump. Got to watch that area here. 2.3 near Pahala, or outside of Pahala, 26 kilometers deep, and a little bit of activity further upstream. That's a 1.8 far as the volcanic status goes here across the Kilauea volcano. Let's double check that. I don't believe it's jumped up yet as far as the status goes. Yesterday's update was showing that it's currently not erupting. And looking at this data here, looks like they did see a little bit of earthquake activity after midnight once again. It's a sequence of swarms that are occurring out there. We could probably split that in half, some from yesterday, some from today. About 60 for a total tally. And this has definitely been a pretty good earthquake swarm out here across the Big Island near Kilauea Volcano. A look at the last 30 days of activity will really bring up the multitude of this quake activity. 611 earthquakes here within the swarming region within the last 30 days. So we haven't seen the return of magma to the surface areas, or lava it would be once it breaks through. But we know it's moving underground for sure. We've noticed an inflationary tilt kicking up out there. So let's double check that and see what we got here for the data today at Kilauea Volcano. Going to get rid of some of these just for now. The UWE station over here is actually a pretty decent seismograph station when it's up and running. So we're going to check out this graph right here over the past 2 days. This gives us a good indicator of when the swarms are picking up. There was a little lack in activity yesterday during a certain period, and then it looks like it picked up overnight again. So the inflationary tilt goes up and down on occasion, depending on what's going on below the surface with the magma through the plumbing system. It's not always just, moving forward. It pauses. Sometimes it will retract, and then it will get another push forward or upward to the surface, trying to find a break through one of the fissures, or maybe potentially creating a fissure out here. We'll see how this goes in the future. One thing they put on these pumpkin spice frappuccinos is this pumpkin sauce or this powder. Goodness, I think it's just nutmeg, I believe it is. Goodness, I just inhaled some of that. But it's good. All right, so there's the inflationary tilt right here. Coming back up. That's swelling, so to speak. So that means magma is definitely accumulating below the surface. And that's been an overall trend here over the past since about looks like the 1st of August or so, somewhere around here. It really took a upturn. An overall trend, though, has been inflating since the pause in the eruption back in June. Obviously, it's been accumulating some strain and stress underneath here as far as magma movement goes. Has not broke the surface yet, though. So we'll continue to watch that. Let's check out the cameras, see what we have for the camera view out here. I think they still have a live stream up and running there on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. Here's the caldera region. A little bit of smoke down here. You can see that. So we know magma's below the surface. Some of that volcanic gas is seeping through. But not enough magma yet, I guess, or not enough pressure, so to speak, far as, breaking through to the surface. But continue to watch that. Earthquake swarms have been kicking up. Inflationary tilt. But I think we'll see that return here pretty soon to the Kilauea volcano. All right, far as the, let's back out of here. It's just a lot of earthquake activity, goodness. But very typical during a volcanic eruption or pre-volcanic eruption. 3.0. Up here, northeastern segment here of Mauna Loa. Pretty shallow earthquake, 5.4 kilometers deep. Mauna Loa is currently resting. And I think we'll see Kilauea volcano start up a few more times before we see Mauna Loa kick back up. Mauna Loa has some extended quiet spells. Also 2.2 over here, western, just off the west coast here of the big island. The Alaska area, looks like a little bit of movement through the Cook Strait area, Cook Inlet. Keep getting this Cook Strait, Cook Inlet area mixed up here. But nothing major going on. This is a major plate boundary, subduction zone. Very typical there for movement as far as microquake activity goes. All right. The only quake I'm seeing here on the map from the USGS is that earthquake here outside the Mariana Islands at 5.4 from last night. Now, the EMSC model map does show, this is the EMSC model, some smaller earthquake activity out here up against the Java Trench and the area around the Philippines. But nothing big. These are all smaller quakes. And either way, looking at this map here, it's really rare to see this go completely quiet as far as 4.0 and above goes for this area. So it looks like things are either going to start kicking up in a big fashion, or we're going to see some further activity out here along the west coast, California area. Most of the time when things go very quiet here across this area, the east or the western Pacific, we'll note some further uptick here across the eastern Pacific, the west coast area, or adjacent plates down here. But we did see, that 6.2 yesterday in the Argentina area. Doesn't look like we've seen any major adjustment following that quake activity. Let me make sure this is updated here for the EMSC map. There we go. There's always going to be some type of smaller quake activity, just like there's always earthquake activity in California along a major plate boundary. It never really stops moving. But seeing a little bit of smaller quake activity, South America region, Middle America Trench as well. A little cluster of activity here in this Gulf outside of the Salina Cruz area, and off the coast of Guatemala. But again, it's a major subduction zone, and that's very typical for that area to see earthquake activity consistently. Further west along the plate boundary, things pretty quiet according to the USGS here. And there is some smaller microquake activity stretching up across the Myanmar area. And this doesn't have like some type of automatic refresh on it. When you go to a different area of the screen, it should. Like I say, I'm still not used to this map. Either way, Turkey area seen some movement, some smaller quakes, a little bit of activity around the Mediterranean here. Austria has seen looks like a 3.1 just earlier. And a slight uptick, I would say, out here around the Azores Islands area. Getting a little bit more movement kicking off out here across these divergent boundaries. That's the oceanic crust out there, the separation of the sea floor. But aside from that, the Atlantic Ocean looks pretty quiet up and down the board. Again, California, definitely keep an eye on this area here. It's just awfully quiet, kind of at a standstill right now. Normally this gets me a little nervous because most of the time things are going to kick off either pretty in a big fashion here across the western Pacific, or continue to kick up across the eastern Pacific here. I just have to see how this plays out today. Right now, the live seismograph stations, I do have various ones up here. Hot Caves, Hawaii, that's near the Kilauea Volcano area. Parkfield, Japan, Chile. Dinsmore, California, that's near Eureka, Kipapa, Hawaii. That's going to be a station right there. Also, I have another Japan and Southern California kicked up there. So we'll just watch this, see how it plays out today. Space weather activity, let's go ahead and jump into that. See if we got any uptick. I'm waiting for some uptick here. We're headed towards solar maximum. Sure doesn't feel like it right now. There are numerous sunspots out here on the visible disk. This magnetogram image here shows the complexity or lack of complexity with the sunspot regions. I think right now the only one noteworthy to watch may be this area down here, and then maybe this area up here. But I think this one has more potential of seeing some flare development compared to this area. Pretty massive up here, but it looks like it's died off overnight far as the structure outside of the core. And these regions around here, about the only sunspot might be worth watching is this area right here. That did produce a that low-grade M flare a couple days ago. Far as anything coming around the eastern limb of the sun, I'm really not seeing anything spectacular. No major bright features out there, so just have to wait and see what happens here. Right now, 90% chance for a C flare, M flare at 15, X flare around 1% chance, and not a whole lot going on across the Aurora department today. The Storm Prediction Center shows the outlook, convective outlook here for today. Looks like North Dakota area, some areas around the Great Lakes. Seeing a slight enhanced risk for some severe weather, including a 5% chance for tornado probability. They're around Detroit, Cleveland, Toledo. Those areas right there are under that 5% tornado threat, so just a heads up. Along with what looks like some damaging wind gust out there in that hatched area, 30% chance of seeing 65 knots or greater within 25 miles of a point. So some strong outflow or inflow type winds will be accumulating or accompanying the thunderstorm activity out here today. So just a heads up for that area. As far as the tropical developments out here in the Gulf, this is the computer models out here as we kick us into motion here. I'm really not seeing anything specific entering into the Gulf or the Atlantic. Maybe right about there as we head into the second week of September, but this is way out here. Can't really be 100% accurate or reliable as far as this type of model goes this far out. But right now in the near term, I'm really not seeing anything that would be affecting landfall. This hurricane out here is going to get caught up, swept back out to the Atlantic without affecting too much of the states there. All right, I'm going to get busy here. Still got quite a bit of schoolwork I got to do here today, and we'll be here off and on though. Live stream is up and running. There's some further activity in Southern Cal right now, 2.8. It's just up and down the board here across the plate boundary. Been showing some elevated movement. So again, just keep an eye on California. This earthquake occurring about almost 6 kilometers deep here underneath the Newport Inglewood fault. That's another dangerous fault system running underneath a massive amount of people there. 2.8. It's underneath automatic status review. Doesn't look like there's anything major going on here. Here's some of the estimated magnitudes from that quake right now. Mostly upper 2s, occasional 3s it looks like in this mix, but they're rounding it out as a 2.8. Either way, stay safe out there, folks. Make sure you have an earthquake plan. Looks like that's gonna be that 2.8 coming in here to the Barrett station. That's down there west of the Salton Sea area. Looks like it just barely picked it up. So this could get revised to something smaller. I don't know. Either way, all right, guys, have yourself a wonderful Thursday out there, and we'll be back here a little bit later on with the complete update later tonight, unless something major happens. Take care, folks.